I've been going through myths here, perhaps. Drugs cause addiction. But is this a drug problem? Those guys in that Appalachia dying? You know, they also are more likely to die of cirrhosis. They're also more likely to commit suicide. That's the one group of white people in America whose life expectancy is declining. There's already a big gap between white and black life expectancy. So addiction isn't about the thing. It's about an experience that comes from a thing or an involvement. It involves the person and it involves their situation. And I'll just give you some quick research references. We had an experiment with heroin addiction that we called the Vietnam War. We sent a lot of young men to Vietnam. About 50% of them became addicted to heroin there. And then they came back to the United States, and 95% of them stopped being addicted, even though 50% of them took a narcotic when they got home. And all of the medical experts said, this defies everything we ever knew about addiction, which is once a person becomes addicted to a drug, they become perpetually addicted. That's their nature. But if you knew nothing about theories of addiction, if somebody said, well, some young men went away from home to Vietnam, they were frightened for their lives, they were separated from their families. In that case, many men became addicted to heroin, and then they came home and they stopped being addicted. You'd all say, well, of course, stupid. Is that the most commonsensical thing there could be? Rat Park is an experiment by a friend of mine named Bruce Alexander. You know, you can get an animal addicted in a cage. They'll repeatedly take a narcotic. So here's the whole darn experiment. They built a bigger place for the rats where they could run around and have a Ferris wheel, and they could have, I don't know how to put it, but there were men rats and female rats. Do you kind of get where I'm going? And all of the rats stopped taking the narcotic. So what does that sign? Sex is a more powerful motivator than narcotics and withdrawal. So we could have all kinds of slides here about sex addiction, couldn't we? And yet we expect most people not to become addicted to sex, even though nearly everybody has it. Isn't that amazing? Rats prefer sex to morphine even when they've been habituated to morphine. So I've been talking about an idea here. The idea that the United States is selling the world, and which you have somewhat bought, is that we're going to solve addiction medically. What's that mean? That we're going to find an area and not one person in the world is diagnosed for addiction by an MRI. They don't bring you in, give you an MRI and say, oh, he's addicted. They say you're addicted because why do they say you're addicted? The lady there nodding her head, blonde hair. Why do they say you're addicted? Hello, my name's Stanton Peele. How do they decide somebody's addicted? Well, they compulsively use it, and what happens to their lives? What happens to their lives? Guy with the glasses here. How do we decide people are addicted? By clinical standards. How do we decide people have a substance use disorder? It becomes the number one priority, and it screws up the rest of their life. Bad things happen to them. That's how they come to us. If bad things don't happen to them, they don't come to us. And they're promising that they're going to solve this with a medical solution. The endorphins were discovered in the late 60s, and they began to announce that we almost had solved mental illness, addiction, and dealing with pain. How's it been going since then, would you say? And I'm going to tell you that this way of thinking is causing our current epidemic. I have a slide here. This is America in a nutshell. What's this slide of? What's this slide say? What is it a slide of? It's drug deaths in America in up to 2017. So at the top right there is synthetic opioids, then heroin, then natural opioids, then cocaine. Do you notice something? They're all rising. It's hard to miss. I didn't make this slide up. I'm not as good with graphics as Pauline. I got this from the Centers for Disease Control. By the way, do you notice when they all start jumping up? Around 2012, 2013? Something else very significant has been happening in the United States starting in 2012, 2013. What's been happening to prescriptions for opioids since 2012, 2013? What's been happening to them? What's that? What do you say?
They're being forged.
Spell it.
Is it forged? Forced. Forged, as in fraud. Forged.
No, the reason I thought you almost gave the right answer. That's forgive me for saying it, the exactly 360% wrong answer. What have people been forced to do with prescriptions in America? What's that? Promoted? I can't get you off your mitts. I'll have to talk to each one of you personally and take you out for a beer. You think prescription medications in America are being promoted? Wonder where you found out. So nobody knows the right answer? Not one person?
Somebody mentioned
what?
Prescription.
What's that?
Overprescribed.
I won't be able to get you to stop answering this question the wrong way, no matter how often I say. It'll be impossible for me. It can't be done. How powerfully a wrong idea, you know how they describe the opioid molecule? Forget that a wrong idea gets in your brain and you can never possibly dislodge it. And you can't answer, but you might know the answer. Prescription painkillers in America have been dropping radically since 2012, 2013. Are you amazed? You're amazed because you think drugs cause addiction, aren't you? So if you have fewer drugs, and I disagree slightly with my very good friend Shane, that the more you have of something, the more addiction you have. But I don't think, when you leave this room, not one person's probably going to believe what I've just told you, even though, if I could have another graphic, deaths go like this, and prescriptions go down. How's that possible? How could that be? How's that happening? What's happening? Isn't this the fundamental? What'd she say?
Is it something to do with the increase in poverty and the results of the recession?
Well, it might be true, but why is there a direct relationship to the decline in prescriptions and the increase in deaths? Why that direct relationship? What's black market mean? What's that? So where do they get their narcotics then? As a rule of thumb, you're going to do worse getting your opioids on the street rather than from a prescribed source. But that's not the whole answer, and they're going to drag me off because things have gone on for a while here. But I'm going to tell you the real reason why deaths are increasing. So how are we, every group in America, from the most radical harm reduction group to the most mainstream American Medical Association, say the same thing. what you all believe. Everybody believes it. Why can't I just believe what everybody else believes? Would I be a happier man, do you think? You think so? I just get along, go out for a beer, and what would I have to worry about? Well, of course I wouldn't have much to talk about. So they all believe that we should cut back prescriptions, and they have this little problem that we've been cutting back prescriptions and more people are dying. But that's not, as you show, it's not a problem. You can talk right around that. So this is the chair of the AMA Opioid Task Force. While this progress report, 2017 report on prescriptions, while this progress report shows physician leadership and action to help reverse the epidemic, we're cutting back prescription drugs tremendously. More than 115 people in the United States die daily. We have a great strategy with the minor problem that more and more people are dying. And so how do we react to that? Just like you in this room. They're going to press for more and more reduction of prescription drugs. What else can you do? What else could we possibly do? It's logical for them. Now, there's one other area. We talked about methadone. I don't have the time to go into all. Research shows that people who leave treatment who are put on buprenorphine or methadone are less likely to die. So we concluded that we'll provide that as a wide-scale public health technique. In the United States, we hear frequently one complaint. It's hard to do that in rural areas. It's hard to get methadone to people in rural Iowa. But we've been much more effective in doing that in cities. The areas where MAT is most readily available have shown the greatest surge in drug deaths. Large US cities see big junk in deadly opioid overdoses. Darn it. Once again, we have the perfect policy, and these people are dying on us.